Marcus would spend hours grilling me about it. I started editing my stories to avoid setting him off, which meant basically lying about harmless interactions. The fights were getting more intense, too. Eric and I used to have calm discussions when we disagreed, but DeMarcus would explode over tiny things. He'd yell and throw things and make me feel crazy for bringing up legitimate concerns. I found myself missing Eric's emotional stability more than I wanted to admit. With Eric, I'd always felt safe to express my feelings or bring up problems. With DeMarcus, I never knew if he'd be understanding or if he'd turn it into a huge fight. DeMarcus also didn't have his life together the way Eric had. He was constantly behind on bills, couldn't keep steady work, and expected me to cover more and more expenses. I started resenting that I was basically supporting both of us. When I tried to talk about our financial situation, DeMarcus would get defensive and accuse me of being materialistic. He'd say, at least he wasn't some boring office drone like my ex. And I should appreciate that he was a free spirit. But honestly, Eric's stability was starting to look appealing compared to wondering if we'd make rent each month. Eric had never made me worry about money or having a roof over my head. Meanwhile, I'd hear through friends that Eric was doing really well. He'd gotten promoted, was taking classes, had joined a gym. People said he seemed happier and more confident than ever. Part of me was glad for him, but part of me was hurt that he was thriving without me. The breaking point came when DeMarcus grabbed my wrist during an argument and squeezed hard enough to leave bruises. He'd been drinking and accused me of flirting with some guy at a party. When I tried to defend myself, he got physical in a way that actually scared me. He apologized the next morning, said he'd been drunk and stressed that it would never happen again. But I couldn't stop thinking about how Eric had never once made me feel physically unsafe, even during our worst disagreements. 6 months after that incident, I finally left DeMarcus. It wasn't easy. He'd isolated me from most of my friends, and I'd become financially dependent on supporting him, which was backwards, but somehow that's how it worked out. I moved back in with my parents, which was humiliating at 24. Having to explain why my exciting relationship had fallen apart was embarrassing, especially since they clearly preferred Eric. The hardest part was admitting how wrong I'd been about everything. I'd given up a stable, loving relationship for chaos with someone who turned out to be controlling and abusive. I kept thinking about Eric and wondering how he was doing. Through social media, I could see he was still thriving.